Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Frey, the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon. With Metroid Prime Remastered being hugely successful on Switch, being highly critically acclaimed, with like lots of great sales behind it, there's clearly a lot of momentum for the Metroid IP going forward. It's possible that Metroid Prime Remastered might become the best-selling Metroid game ever, like surpassing Dread's like 3 million unit sales. This is a big deal for the franchise in that we might actually finally see Metroid become a multi-million seller after like years of being downplayed by the gaming media and the general gaming public for like, asinine arbitrary reasons, right? Which were very, very, very real. So seeing Metroid Prime get re-released and like get so critically acclaimed, it's been very exciting. It's been a very exciting time for me. I almost feel as if I personally, someone who's like always stood by the game as being genuinely great, who's always liked the game, who's always enjoyed it, kind of feels as if maybe I have more appreciation for this game because back in the day I used to call this game just okay. I just kind of liked it. I enjoyed it, but I never called it my favorite, right? Like I always preferred Super, but playing this remastered version, playing it alongside everyone else, like, getting to experience the game again, like in a completely new way, like I do have a newfound appreciation for it. So much so that I really have to ask the question, like, is Metroid Prime better now than it was 21 years ago? And honestly, like, seeing what everyone else is saying, seeing like the reactions, seeing like how hype this is, seeing how excited I was to play it, more so than I was even during my first playthrough all those years ago. Like, I really do feel as if Metroid Prime, yes, it is better than games that are being made today. Yes, it is better than it was 20 years ago because I have matured as a person. I have matured as an individual. I have like more sophisticated tastes. I have like, more of appreciation for like how immersive the game is and how well developed like the sci-fi setting and like the level design is, like, just the general enemy and just the general creativity of it. Like, now that I have a wider scope for what's out there, like the world of sci-fi, the world of gaming, the world of like first-person adventure games, I can more safely say that, like, yes, Metroid Prime is absolutely the best game of its kind ever made, in the sense where, like, it's a first-person adventure game where you're exploring a planet, right? Like, there's nothing else really like it. I would say even the sequels, or at least Prime 3, kind of deviated from the formula a little bit. But Prime 1 really nails this aspect of, like, an individual going down to this alien planet and trying to like uncover it. It really surprised me, like, playing this, like how much it felt like a good Dark Souls game. Like, it was, if it was Dark Souls but good, right? In the sense where, like, you go down to this planet and don't necessarily know like where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do, what you can accomplish, and you just kind of have to like figure it out. Even after all this time, there were like plenty of times where I found myself wondering, like, wow, am I supposed to go here yet? Am I supposed to do this? Like, there were a lot of things, especially early on, that I did remember, but like, going through these labyrinthine maze like kind of levels, like this world map, you really get an appreciation for, like, wow, like they have a lot going on. Like, there are dead ends, there are like places you can get stuck on, there are, there's backtracking that feels organic and natural. Like, you unlock power-ups that make getting to certain areas easier later on. You have like this and this, like, you just learn where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to do. And when it all comes together at the end, you find yourself like thinking that, like, wow, this was a phenomenal experience. And as an adult, you really do have more of an appreciation for that kind of thing. You really do have an appreciation for just how much the game does for you as an individual. Because, like, as a kid, like, when you get to the phase on mines, you just find yourself like annoyed at just like the endless waves of enemies, not being able to beat that drone, like, right before the power bomb, having to like backtrack, having to like do all those like weird things, those like weird sections without like a proper save room, like, the Omega Pirate. Like, there's so much about the phase on mines that annoys you as a kid, but as an adult, you find yourself like really taken in by just how like retro, as a studio, really tried pushing the player to the absolute limits of their capability, right? When it comes to their boss designs, when it comes to their enemy encounters, when it comes to like the general AI, like just how sophisticated and just how well made the game is, it stands up even 21 years later. I've said GoldenEye like has held up surprisingly well considering its age and like the time period it came out, but I think that might also be true for Metroid Prime in that sense, because this game stomps the shit out of games like that came later. Stuff like Half-Life 2, stuff like Dead Space, stuff like Mass Effect. Like I can't think of any one of those games that even came close to what Metroid Prime accomplished. And I am tired of people trying to write off Metroid Prime by saying that like, oh, it couldn't compete with Halo. No, in reality, it was Halo that couldn't compete with Metroid Prime. The problem was that the audience for Halo, people who had never played a video game before, never really appreciated what Metroid Prime is. And now that they're older, now that these people like maybe have gotten more into the hobby and maybe are experimenting with new and different things, or maybe are simply giving Metroid Prime a chance, those people are understanding what makes Metroid Prime great. Even those of us who did play and appreciate Metroid Prime back in its heyday are appreciating this title and what it did for us, what it did for the audience, what it did for Nintendo in general, what it did for Retro Studios. Like one of my favorite platforming games of all time, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, came about because of this game, right? Like it's incredible just how many bangers Retro put out in like a 10-year period. Like, some of the best games ever made came from them. Right. And this is, I think, in a lot of ways, like a high mark in that regard, because, I think they playing this, I really think that Retro Studios has it in them to make a Metroid Prime 4 that really doubles down on what made Metroid Prime great. And if they do that, I am just I don't know how the gaming industry is going to damage control at this time. Last time they had Halo and all these other like PS2 games to do it. If they release Metroid Prime 4 like on Nintendo Switch after like a period of like releasing Metroid Prime 2 Remastered and 3, getting a lot of people hyped for this franchise, this could legit be the most successful Metroid game ever made. Like this could legit sell like 5 million units. Maybe. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if it breaks through that glass ceiling, but I think it's coming. I think like a lot of people are like into Metroid. I think the days of like writing off these games because like, oh, they're not like Super, they're not like the old ones. I only like the 2D games. I don't like these spin-offs. I don't like Prime. Like I think that's like a dead narrative in the water. It's not going to be able to sustain itself. And now you have people like making excuses saying that like, well, Prime 4 isn't coming to Switch probably, which is like which is a load of crap. I think we've heard no confirmation to the contrary. So I think Metroid Prime 4 is coming. It will come out in the next couple of years, and we are going to see like what this game has in store for us. And if it's anything like Prime 1, it's going to be fantastic. And this time around, I think people will have more of an appreciation for what this game offers.